Well, hello, my name is Jax NTP. Today is April 6, 2013 at 1:09 p.m. and I am interviewing Marcello Arturo Giagnoli for his upcoming graduation. We have some questions, about a dozen, that we want to go through and kind of figure out his journey and who he has evolved throughout his education and everything in between, right? The first question is, can you talk about how this began? Can you talk about your life and without school and the way things are and how people came along and what's important to you? Just the basics, the foundation.
All right. Well, I guess from my family, I guess that would be the thing I should start with. That there's a big entrance that they have, like with my mom having. It seems like she has a great happiness within her that I've developed as well, and with my brother and me as well. We have and my grandma kind of took us in to help us after my father abandoned us a while ago, which I don't need to bring up too much up right there. But the four of them had been a big connection. At the same time, we're all different. Uh, Going through life, I guess I have been introduced to the relatives from Italy, and a couple came here because that's where my grandma's from. And when my Mamina, my grandma, came from Italy, she met the Reed family, Zirozina, Franca, and Maria, Gigi. All of them came to be very close to us. And at the same time, when we were kids, we spent a lot of times with my mom and Mamina, and we started going there as well. A lot of times with that family, and I loved visiting them as we did onto, doing that as well. And it feels as though there was a choiceless awareness back then when I was a kid, that it was like one day to the next we wouldn't go every day, but it would be something that we would just do as a family all the time. And I guess the family friends like the Reed family, Ophelia, Luigina, Gigi, Monta, Diana, uh, we became close and recognized friends for us all. Though one thing that I felt that I surely see is that I can't begin to continue or experience new things with all them just the same as we had, I guess, because I feel like the distance of what I did, it was like a separate step that I can't even continue with my own friends, for example. Like, it feels like there's a difference in that, and I believe a lot, like with other friends like Laura, Juan, Jenny, and other ones who I can't possibly remember at the time. It just really, it's a time. It seems like it's the time. It happens all the time for the time, and that it's easy way to say that they are important. And I think it is easy to say they're important because I knew them so long ago, and still know them. But I think I'm a different conversationalist than like my mom and my grandma and my brother. Like, so that kind of changes what happens back then to what happens now. And I think because of that, so to me, I believe in a different conversation way, I guess, a more horizontal one, where I kind of felt that, I guess, where it was more, we kind of defined our relationship through my grandma, through those families and those family friends. And to me, I kind of have like a more open mind and child eyes about things. And I think I have many friends from my brother's friends, for example, than my own because of this too. Like, a lot of times the thing is my brother started like the paranormal group, for example, and from that I kind of became the empath and medium for that group. I know I'm kind of skipping around, but it's important too to get to the crux of why it happened this way. I got those friends because of the paranormal group.
Mm.
So it's kind of hard, where I think there's a difference with that too, that it got to the point where I was able to pick up the spirits through the group and pick up on a lot of things just with my sensitivity, I guess, and possibly because of me having that open mind, the child eyes with a lot of things. But those experiences have been outside of work and school and such, where I have developed some life experiences and still do. And it's just much the same as my personal experiences growing up involved, like night terrors when I was a kid, where my mom had to like hold me down, and where I was half awake and half asleep, and I had to be held down by my mom, and she was really close to that too, where she was scared for like what I could do, because a lot of times I could just walk into anything or try to even walk out of the house. So, and I think with that, just growing up, she kind of felt scared too, and it's like the early childhood also involved that with me, about when I was diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, Asperger's syndrome. I mean, all these were kind of parts of my life when I was young, and all these mental disorders have helped probably, I guess, in some ways to where my development of my mind goes. And I've also, during my life outside of school and such, I evolved friendships that have been great and also not so long lasting. Many came from school and places such as like 9/11 Truth Movement, where I went to protest with my brother in 2010, and we went out and met a lot of people, got many friendships. In fact, many of the Truth Movement is what me and my brother as individuals agree with. I have seen and felt a lot of the victims, in fact, from 9/11 and other events in history too, probably going way back in history, even before our civilization here. And I kind of felt like, for me, it's like those family members are pleading for other family members and friends to pursue more. And the whole thing of their energy is major in its effects on me, I think. I think that's where I'm able to pick up on more even through the years. Though many would say that thinking this way, where it's like, you know, you question authority or these kind of things, this way won't change things. Well, it's not going to change things if we kill our own ideas, I guess, and I think, or belief others have. And I think the struggle in life I see many people desperately clinging to what they have around, and the present consciousness is like a strong mental image of what has been projected at us all our lives. And so I see it every day and feel these questions open up more doors, so that there are other ways to think and not just allowing ourselves to believe everything that is defined as negative as it is, I guess. So that's the first one.
Well, that was a very well thought out answer for the first question.
Yeah.
And from your answer, I have about 2 or 3 questions I want to ask you to further, I guess, understand. So you spoke about how being with certain family members and friends, you felt that you can't begin or continue new experience with them as the same. So would you say that that's a kind of like relationship stagnancy? And would you say that stagnancy is required or essential for growth?
I would say that the stagnancy it may have come from the fact that I didn't introduce myself. That may have been why it got stagnant at that point, because they learned from me from another person. Even though I was a family member, they learned about me through my grandma or my mom. And I guess that may have been the problem, that why it got stagnant. And yeah, I think in a lot of ways the relationship sometimes goes to the stagnancy. And I felt that from some of the friendships developed through family friends and stuff like that. Because I still feel very close to them, so I don't think it just eliminated the relationship. It may have just evolved it in a different way.
Right. So aside from like romantic relationships, our first relationships are with our family and with our friends or your childhood friends of family. So would you say that before we can introduce ourselves even to those people, we have to kind of grow separately from them before we can have something to introduce?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a kind of growing up with you, but kind of the need to kind of find yourself and then come back and like, oh, this is who I am. Let me present Marcello to you.
Let me present him.
Okay, so for those who are listening, and can you define empath and medium briefly?
I guess the best definition is someone who is, I guess, very sensitive to the spiritual side of the world, I guess, where you open up, you kind of keep yourself open to another kind of living life, because to be honest, that's the way I experience it, where it feels like they're still living. It feels like sometimes they may be trapped here, sometimes they may want to stay here, and I feel like their energy, I'm able to get answers, I'm able to possibly get a message across that somebody they know in real life, or just something that's keeping them here, or that may be keeping them in the same spot again and again, where they may be repeating the same routine again. So I think, I don't know if I defined it, but I defined more of what I experience, I guess.
So you're basically giving them a chance or a platform to communicate what they're able to communicate, because the people they're communicating to or with aren't receiving that message.
Yeah, that's definite.
That's great. So then you talked about how you were diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, and later on Asperger's syndrome.
Yeah.
Do you think that with that diagnosis, did that also enrich your growth? And especially like you're talking about it so openly and embracing it and kind of including it as a part of your introduction to people you meet and to the world. Like, how do you feel about that? Or
well, it's kind of I think it's kind of funny that all three were diagnosed on me through the years when I was younger, especially because that was during the 1990s and 2000. I was diagnosed with Asperger's, so it was kind of like through my younger years I kind of experienced it. So I think more now than ever I've kind of looked back and said, wow, that's really intense through those years that I was getting those kind of things defined on me when I was younger. And the more I kind of think about it, just expressing it helps me understand it more, because I didn't really think about it back then too. And I think that's where I'm kind of opening the door more to say it more and talk with other people about it, and just embracing what has occurred to understand more then and now too. So
that's great. So let's get back to school and education. And with that, did it start early on? Like, what do you remember about school?
Well, when I was very small, I went to Aloha Elementary for a while, and I guess from that I should say for a couple years, actually. And I met Monta and her daughter Diana, which my mom and grandma got to know more Diana's mom and family for a while. Up to last year, actually. We had a good, good relationship in a way. And we all got along well, and earlier years we spent a lot of time at Mamina's house a lot of the time, and Monta Diana Ray, which is Monta's husband, and one of their neighbors would come over, bring over a computer, and we'd play with a computer. And that was like my first exposure to computers until I got my own in '98. So I'd been using a computer since then. And for a while, for a time, we had been really good friends and did lose touch. Sorry, wrote that wrong there. Mm-hmm. But we lost touch after I got to high school. So during college, at Long Beach City College actually, I met Diana again, and once more the families all got together and we became closer once more and got to know each other again. Then about 2008, my friendship with Diana ended due to a lot of actions that had occurred, like with her friends who had been contacting me again and again, and actually wouldn't stop contacting and bothered like my mom's sleep pattern and things like that. So I was kind of bringing that up, and that kind of stilted the friendship, I guess, in a way. Kind of stalled it, but still I was close to Monta, and I actually hung out with her more than my own family, but it was because I think she's very energetic and wants to spend time with people, wants to, I think, put herself out there a lot too, just to spend time. And I think by 2012 I did talk to Diana again, and this time she used all I'd said against me with her mom, and her mom came to my grandma's house and just spluttered it out, and she didn't come to me first, and I think that's really a bad thing to do, because I didn't say anything bad. I just brought her up to date with everything that had happened, things that happened just within me, within the family, just little things, nothing remarkably like defensive or against anybody. And I think she just used that to kind of close off the connection that we had with her mom. Mm. And like I said, I never brought up anything like that. So when I was to just, I guess, I only said that the disapproval and judgment cannot change what I feel. And I think that's what I've learned through my experience with my family. And I think in a lot of ways, if I agree with the disapproval and judgment, it's on my own terms and in my own actions. So I think that's what really changed things. So I could care less for the other's view in that way. But so the friendships all ended due to all that. But I do forgive and understand the action because it makes sense, I think. Because if something's bothering you, sometimes you can take it out on someone else, or try to make someone else look bad even though they didn't do anything bad. In elementary, though, I did give myself names like the Mask, Prince Charming, and everything I was basically liking at the time, or doing at the time at the school. I would just tell everybody, oh, call me this. And I asked everybody to call me that, and it was kind of like that spread throughout the school. And though I had it figured it was, but oh, sorry, messed up here. When I was asked one time to who I liked at the school, I kind of made it up, but I lied to them in that effect to because I wanted to tell the person. I didn't want them to just spread it to the school, which what happened. I did have bullies, but it was worse because back then it was with the personality and character I had, so it was like friendly bullyism, which is the worst kind it can be. But in junior high, I did act out more actually with hand gestures, and friends would do it back to me too. I would just like put my hands in weird positions, but in junior high, I had the only fight I ever had was in junior high, and it was between. But the only fight I had was one that never happened. Basically, it was a group of these friends I talked with a lot, did gestures with, and from behind, I was pushed by him, and I was shoved to the ground, and then I got up. The whole last year, I felt drained, and I guess I'm glad it ended those friendships because in a lot of ways, it felt like it was more turning into a wrestling match than. I guess what should have happened was resolve the conflict, not just set up a fight. And I think that's what really drained me with it. And I did choir in junior high as well in high school, and then I started running track and cross country. I took a few Japanese classes as well in high school, and I had been really reliant on getting friendships out of anyone my first year of high school, I think. And I have had long-lasting ones with friends like Sebastian, and also I had known others too for all high school too. And outside of that, where did I see? Oh, and with other potential friendships and other shorter friendships. In 10th grade, I met Shane, who wanted to hang out with me because his friends graduated the year before by the time he got to 11th grade.
That guy.
But I realized that, going through cross country and track, which is where I met him, where I met Shane as well, he introduced me to a lot of music. He introduced me to reading because I hadn't really focused on reading much, and even though I had been writing, it hadn't been as influenced until I started reading more.
Right.
And it's the same thing with movies and all the other stuff that he'd got me into at that point. Our friendship fallen through, though. At the time, we always did hang out, and I think that was a good thing because I felt like from 2002 to about 2008, life had repeated in me until I saw that it shouldn't have the way it did. And I felt like with Shane, he became like a repeated critic, I guess. And I saw it when I was leaving our friendship. It felt like it was a doormat friendship in a way. Mm. So it was best that it did end. After that ended in like November 2004, 3 days later, I met another friendship that started, which was Rena. And I only bring that up because those 3 days felt like the days where I could have like been dead and nothing would have changed. It felt so weird, like those 3 days felt so empty. And I only mention her because it was outside of school, but I'll mention that later, actually. Get more to that later in the next question. But when college at LBC started, I was getting used to the place I met. And I met Brian early on, and he became good friends along with now his girlfriend Abby. So I wish them the best because I knew that I've always been able to talk freely with both of them as well, and I have as well. So, and I also met Dwayne, who I had been a good friend with. I had a little fallout with as well because of kind of like jokes that he had said about my brother when he met him. But it was mostly bothering me because of how my grandma and brother were going at it at the time. And I felt like, disgruntled and like upset about that stuff too. So pretty much I do know him now, and he's a great friend again. So that we kind of patched things up, or I did, I guess I could say. And yeah, it's all touched up and not fucked up. That's how I put it there. Then in 2006, I met Adriana in geology class, and she's been a wonderful friend ever since. Even without seeing her, she has been a good friend. And during these years, until 2008, I also had been an interlude to Minnie and became quite easily attached to it. I think that's what's really happened with that. And I brought it on at times too. So I think with that, I guess through Adriana, I met Martha and her friends. This quickly ended due to other issues. I could not escape of it, really. Even the issues within that I had feelings there too. It kind of made it impossible that it wasn't going to end. Same thing with Neumann, who was a guy who was hitting on me too at the time. And Patrick, a couple years later. The friends I lost in this order only came from, like, I think it felt like a pedestal and expectations that I could not live up to. And I can't do that for anyone. And from these friendships ending, I learned this. Like, I lost them because of promises that I guess they could not live up to and I couldn't live up to. Whichever is true, or other issues came and went quickly. I apologize for my actions, obviously, but I apologized back then too. So it goes anyway it goes, because I can't replace my actions, and I couldn't replace them either, and would not want to. So I think just as I said that, I met Christina in 2008 as well, and our friendship started a few years later, actually. So in 2011, we started hanging out and talk as well, and hang out with her and her friend Catherine. And I'm grateful and thankful to be introduced and know both of them, or knew both of them. I don't know which way to say it, but it did come to an end that I didn't want. It felt like a choiceless thing to me, because I was always determined to see all I can live on. But Catherine, I want to thank you for everything, but the choice, I am what I am, and to her meaning both of you. I think that no one can change what people believe, and I guess within me, what I believe or what has happened has made me believe something that may have triggered me not knowing you or hanging out with you. And it's the same thing, getting to Cal State Long Beach, I guess, I met many, as well as Jax here. I want to bring up first because she's been such a great friend and wonderful by all accounts. What I'm reading here is, weak and strong. That's because, all the time we spent, and all the music, movies, poetry, readings, and everything, all of that you've been in that life with. So as much as you have been, or more in my life to you, I don't know which one.
It's equal.
It's equal, good.
I would like to put it on record that it's pretty mutual here.
That's good. Yeah, all the walks and just eating out at new places, new experiences in every place. That's what's awesome, I think, with it. So, but also during Cal State Long Beach, I met many people that I spent time knowing, and all together too. But now after this, it's just been a great experience altogether with school and everything. So.
Okay, so I have about 3 mini questions out of this one.
Okay.
So first, let's talk a little about friendly bullyism. I think that's a great phrase we should coin, like, right now.
Yeah.
So from my understanding and from listening to what you've said thus far, would you say that friendly bullyism is kind of like manipulation? And can you give us a specific example, whether it's real or imaginary, of how that would take place in a way?
Well, I think it took place many times. I think the example that I gave even back then, one of the examples is even just asking the person, who you like here? Mm-hmm. And that's what happened back in 5th grade. And I think that was a friendly bullyism in a way. And I think that's why, even at that point, I was like sitting at the lunch table and just like, wait a minute, why are they asking me who I like here? And then I really thought about it, like, I can't believe I stopped myself from saying anything automatically, but I did, and I thought, like, maybe I should just tell them 2 people here that I don't really like, but I have to say somebody because I know they're going to keep on bothering me about it. And I feel like, based on, like, my character and personality, they came to me like that, in that way, like, friendly, but just, they were going to spread it out around, too. And I think that's what really, maybe I set up a trap for myself in a way, too. So
kind of like friendly with a hostile undertone?
Yeah.
Kind of like a confrontation that you don't really have an answer to, but you feel obligated to say something?
Yeah.
Okay. So you talk about how you have been and kind of choose to be an interlude for people. And I'm getting the sense that there's an overlap with your identity as an empath and as a medium. I feel like you being an interlude for people, like here physically,
Yeah.
and an empath for the spiritual world. Would you agree with that, or?
I never thought of it that way, but I can see the connection to it, because how things resulted afterward, it kind of brought a lot of things into place in this frame, and in like the spiritual side too. It felt like it kind of made it shift into a better like path for everyone.
Right.
So I can definitely see that resemblance there.
So you talked about your friendship with Shane and other friendships as well.
Yeah.
Including Christina and Catherine. So my question is, what do you do after love, after friendship, after something that once was meaningful but has run its course? Because you talked about how there was a 3-day period of emptiness after Rena's
friendship with Shane.
With Shane, okay.
Yeah. And I think what I do is I just, at some points I cry and let it all out, and I've recorded myself too, and I kind of listen to it, and I just see like, what exactly am I saying? How am I acting when I cry? What do I get out? And then I kind of figured, like, from the first time that happened with Shane and with Rena even, which I'll get into later, but
okay.
I think from that I kind of developed the idea of what mental state I had when I was in the friendship and what I feel now. And I think what I do with those friendships or relationships even is that I keep them alive to where they were. And then from that, I kind of see that they were meaningful and they are meaningful, but they're also harmful at a certain point. And I think it's inescapable to have something harmful, but it's also a bad decision to continue it if there's no rational reason for someone doing something or someone acting a certain way. And I think that's what really happened with some of those friendships, that they weren't acting rationally with the friendship now, and they were kind of just, they didn't care. It seemed like their actions didn't reflect the friendship that had developed and the relationship, I guess.
So another question that I'm thinking about is with friendship and relationships beyond friendship, do you when you interact with people, do you act or do you react?
Man, I've done both.
You've done both.
I think differently in each one.
Right.
But I do know I have done both, where I've reacted and acted by myself.
Can in your own words, can you define what an action is and what's a reaction?
I hate to say it this way, but I feel like with someone who kind of gives their personality out, that's an easier way for me to create an action through that, to that person. So maybe I am reacting only. But then again, I don't know for sure if they've done it to get a reaction or if they've done it automatically.
Right.
So I think within that, I've kind of developed my motive to either create a better action and see what can happen from there. And I think that's how I've always done things, in a way where I've seen, look, how can this develop now? Let's see. And I just sort of let it float away. If it needs to float in with me or if it floats without me, I guess.
That's really good. To float with me or float without me. So, in addition to friendly bullism, I would like to also coin the phrase, all touched up and not fucked up. So, for future reference, can you use that in a sentence, or can you kind of like show us a scenario on how to use that phrase, all touched up and not fucked up? I think it's fun. It's great.
Well, my friendship with Dwayne is all touched up and not fucked up. That's the best way to put it, where I used it already.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on. And so we've talked about your education all the way from elementary school, junior high, and then we're caught up to Cal State Long Beach. Now, can you talk about your work experience, more specifically at McDonald's?
Well, why I work here. I guess that's the first thing I'm going to ask myself. I need it. It's a part of myself, I think. And I think back in 2003 to 2008, I worked here, and that was when I was finished up in high school and going through Long Beach City College. As well, I actually had a big seizure there as well when I was working there, so I left for about 10 months, and for that time, but during that whole time I had been there, working there for those years, and I developed good friendships working with the customers and just co-workers there too. And I think I met, starting with Olivia, my manager, Patty, Sylvia, and many other workers and managers too, Oscar, Gabby, Mary, Marcos, Lucy, Lorena, Karina, Monica. Okay, they're all going to repeat. They may sound similar, but they're all different people when they say that. And I think the list is pretty thin on what I could remember back then, because there's always a lot of shifts at McDonald's and people leaving the whole place entirely, so it's kind of like in and out with that place. But I'm going to talk about Mary first, because she actually stalked me after she had stopped working there. And I think it's one of the strangest things came after she had quit there, and it was almost a year after. It was like September 2004. I was running at the Guard High School track, and I just came back, and I was at the light there near Gar and waiting at the left turning signal at the red light, and there was 2 cars in front of me, 1 car in back, and all these girls ran out of their cars and just started running around my car. And they let's see, sorry, lost my spot here. This was like 7:30 in the morning, and one girl had a sign that said Mary is a genius on it. And I just sat in my car watching all these girls in old style brown, orange, and Renaissance style dresses, and it was really strange. And as the time had passed, we two knew one another, and like I talked with her at work, at church, and after that whole thing happened, it went down slowly. It felt like it was going down slowly. It was because she hadn't talked to me since maybe February in 2004. So to see her all of a sudden have this action, I was kind of like, huh? And by November, I had met Rena, who I was speaking about in my last question, at work. And at first, knowing her, felt it was a good friendship building. I think it was. And in December, when we had a talk one time, she kind of got into this really angry state of mind, I guess. And she asked, "Are you gay or something?" In this like way of like, I don't know, it felt like intimidation in a way, and I kind of felt like...
Another friendly bullism?
Yeah,
okay.
Another friendly bullyism. And I don't know, I kind of felt from that she had wanted a relationship at that point, but she was 14 at the time I met her, and I was 18, so that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So, and from there on until about May 2005, our friendship had got to a point where I learned that being forced into anything is really bad, because I wasn't doing anything at all, and I think her friendly bullyism, or however she had acted, kind of pushed me away to the friendship just going away. And I met her at McDonald's and through church and through the times where she saw me running in the morning, which is kind of odd because I run early, but that's okay. But both Rena and Mary did stalk me for a time in summer, and it may have been 2005, I think. But we didn't last as friends back then with, I think it was, let me see if I got this right. But a couple years later, I started talking with Rena again, and she was actually the only one that responded to any apology that I've ever given, actually. So I hung out with her a few times, and we just developed a better friendship now than we have before. So I think that catching up with time, it has helped. So anyway, as I said, I worked there for many years, and I just came back to McDonald's in May 2012. And from then on, I've just known, back to some of the people I've known before, from Jackie, Carmen, Candida, Mimi's, Lena, Humberto, and others as well. With work, the time I spent there before I had worked there, I had asked because... after I had quit, sorry. I had asked the first girl out, but I didn't do that before. But
So let's clarify. You worked at McDonald's twice. The first time was 5 years,
Yeah.
from 03 to 08.
Yeah.
And then there was a 10-month gap that you were sick. And then you returned after?
no, that was in. I had quit because of my seizure in 2005, and I had gone back in 2006 and worked until 2008 there until I had quit and just focused on school more. So that's what happened there. And when I went back in 2012, which is last year, obviously, I went back and I actually got Christina hired there too. So Humberto rehired me, and I had been transferred to the Lakewood Mall. And for that time, I met Humberto's wife, actually, Rocio, and a lot of the people there that I first met, like Linda, Maria, Anita, Felicia, Alba, Eric, Leslie, and it felt really intense. Like, I feel differently than I did before in a lot of ways. Like, I feel like there's such a change in after the time before working, and all, like, experiencing a lot of what I experienced through the end of my friendship with Christina and Catherine. I felt that the irritated sarcasm that came from them, like being a part of the ending, even while I was working again, it felt like glad to be back. And I started to work at both the stores there at the Lakewood Mall. And after the mall court closed, it was interesting because the last day at the food court, Catherine and Tacola came in as well and didn't take notice of me. As they just sat down, and it felt like it feels intense, and it feels like there's a slowdown there. It just
Feel it.
Yeah. And also back at like the Hawaiian Garden store, Christina at first it was quiet, and then I did apologize and say sorry, and we had talked a few times more, and she had moved to another store actually, so back to closer to home, I think. And after that, I kind of got to know more people like Fernando, Jessica, Teresa, Davina, Cassie, Nancy, Carmen, Jackie, Sylvia, Maria. I'm going to name them all. Maribel, Charisse, Lizette, Kathia, Yesenia, Nate, Caesar, Magnolia, Sylvia, Stephanie's. Yes, there's double. Vanessa, Mariah, Jose, Karina. I mean, just more new people. And to say the least, this place is an outlet. It's like all my experiences personally and all that really counts for how I've been right now in a way. I think that's really it.
So in addition to school, I guess you can say that working at McDonald's serves as kind of like a foundation bookend to your growth.
Yeah, definitely.